Welcome to Monetize Your Business podcast conversations in partnership with FNB. My name is Hetty the Entrepreneur, and welcome to yet another fabulous conversation. We're delving into the world of coding and robotics. I really can't wait for this conversation. I think it's going to be really interesting. Papa Biz, how are you?
No, I'm good. I'm looking forward to this conversation. When we spoke earlier and we were assessing the guests, and then you mentioned robotics, I said, this we've got to see. I'm looking forward to this.
Absolutely. Our guest for today is Tshego Dludla, and she is an entrepreneur within the coding and robotics space. And she's also got a really great gift for storytelling, which I'm really looking forward to unpacking. Tshego, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Welcome,
Tshego. Awesome.
Thank you.
Before we get into the coding and robotics and all that nitty-gritty, I really want us to unpack a little bit about you, the person, who you are, your earlier context, where you grew up, just a little bit more about you to introduce you to our audience.
Fantastic. I'm born Tshego Musimehe, a little Tswana girl, born in Taung.
Taung?
Yes,
Okay.
Taung in the northwest.
Okay.
Manchester to be exact.
Okay.
We then lived in Mafikeng for a bit, and by the time I was 6, we moved to Pretoria.
Okay.
We lived in Pretoria until my mom still lives in Pretoria today. I've never become a Pretorian, I've got to say that.
Really?
It just never sunk in. Maybe because my parents never let us speak the language in the house. I don't know. But I then, grew into me in high school, loved the stage, sucked at sport, and then into my tertiary years, played a bit with some electronics. As an electronics engineer, I spent about just over a decade in development and in the manufacturing space, rather.
Okay.
And then the call, as we call it, the call to go into education came in, and I found myself teaching coding and robotics to young children, underprivileged children. Slowly evolved from it being a non-profit organization to a PTY in 2020, and now we teach teachers to teach coding and robotics in the classroom, and on rather how to integrate coding and robotics into any subject so that learning can be fun, whether you're teaching maths, English, life skills, geography. We can use coding or robotics in a classroom so that, children learn differently.
Yes.
Now more than ever, you've got your neurodivergent kids, you've got all sorts of things that are coming up. And I think all kids deserve that chance, but most importantly, those in the rural areas, your township areas, don't normally get that kind of attention. So that's where we play, that's where we spend our time, and it makes sense now. Tshego, the 15-year-old, if you had said she'd be here, she would have said, not possible. But now that it comes together, it makes sense.
Now, you just said that. So you mentioned earlier, growing up in Taung. Now, myself, I actually grew up in Pampierstad.
Okay.
And so for us, when we were growing up, when we were looking for a big city to go to, it was actually to Taung. So, and you guys had the thing, we'd go there and we'd sing as kids as we were excited as my parents would drive us, Taung San.
Yes, please.
Because we'd be coming there. So for you, what was it like growing up in Taung and that period up until you were 6 that you can remember?
So we were only in Taung until I was 2.
Oh, okay.
My only basic, we did go back quite a lot of times because we have family there. My main memory of Taung is the fact that my grandparents owned a farm, so whenever we were there, we were on the farm.
Lovely.
Being chased by chickens, not chasing the chickens. Cows. Every time we were there, my grandmother would put a turkey down for us. So it's not one of those, no, let's get a chicken. No, my grandmother was like, get a turkey.
Yeah.
So those are my memories of Taung. Also, just it being a very dry place. Dry, but still very fond memories of the place. Best place ever. And yes, Taung San is still the thing.
Yes. Oh, I love that. How do you think your upbringing would have been different if coding and robotics was introduced?
Oh my goodness. It would have been very, very different because, so I was that kid who liked to dismantle things.
Okay.
And figure things out and break it all apart and get into trouble because I couldn't put it back together.
Yes.
I think if those kinds of things were introduced then when I was younger. One, I probably would have been able to put things back together. But I think my parents would have been more open to the child I was. Because they would have said, this is something that kids can do.
Yes.
They're allowed to do it. They are taught to do it. And people like myself are not seen as wasinya every time you touch something. I mean, I think to this day, my mom still has a fear of me touching anything. She's just like, just put it down nicely, slowly, because I was going to mess it up, granted. And I think now parents are more willing because they're like, okay, kids are given these opportunities to touch these things, pull it apart, put it back together, you know, and the mindset going to varsity and only in varsity knowing that coding exists. Yes, we had it in high school, but it was very
light,
very basic, very light. You know, I think I would have soared much faster. I would have been in a totally different place by now, and maybe I would have stuck to the engineering instead of, you know, going into education to try and get everybody else to catch up.
Yes.
Look, I don't know what high school you were at. In my high school, there was no coding and robotics. So
yeah, even for us as well.
Yeah. So then, so what I'm hearing from you then is that from observing that behavior as a younger child, then that's what led you towards the engineering space.
No.
Okay. What brought you there? I mean,
A fight with my dad.
oh wow. Okay.
Oh, really?
Yes.
This is a safe
I
place. Let's hear
wanted
about
to
this.
study musical theatre.
Ah.
That was my first choice on my varsity application.
Okay.
Musical theatre. My second option was vocal art. Like I said, the stage was my home. And then my father said, you've got to have something that will make sense that you can fall back on. As it is, he was very upset that I put those first two choices. For him, the electronics was supposed to be number one. And I was like, okay, just to make you happy, we'll put this one down. The first one, the application went through well, the audition went well, and because of some terms and conditions that we didn't agree with the school, I didn't get it.
Okay.
The second one, there was just no space. I was late. And then I get that letter, congratulations, because of your maths and science marks, you've been accepted for engineering. I was like,
Oh my gosh.
my father was the happiest man on the earth at the time. Look, I'm glad now because I wouldn't have chosen it for myself, even though I was breaking things apart. I was like, no, that's just what I do when I'm playing, man. It's not a serious thing.
Yes.
You know, so let's not fight the things the parents see and say.
Yes, yes.
There's method to the madness.
There is method to the madness. It can actually help you out later.
Exactly.
In life. Oh my gosh. Okay, I see. And when it comes to, I'm just curious to see how the entrepreneurial bug kind of bit you then. After doing engineering, did you go straight into corporate? What was the stages like after that?
I was in corporate for over 10 years.
Okay.
So I studied. The plan was corporate girly,
Yes.
climb up the ladder,
Yes.
sit somewhere as head engineer somewhere, technologist of some kind, and maybe come up with some great inventions. That was the plan. And along the way, the company I was working for went through some hard times, and I found myself unemployed.
Sure.
I was okay. I was like, it's okay. Take 3 months, take a break, and then get back into the job market. I think 6 days after I signed all my paperwork, and this is, retrenchment packages and things, this is what it's going to look like. Thank you, goodbye. 6 days after that, I found out I was pregnant.
Oh wow, geez, sure.
Aha.
And-
That changes everything.
Oh, it changes the dynamic.
Yeah.
Because then you walk into an interview with this kind of belly that you're trying to
Yes,
hide.
yes.
And then they go, we'll
What's
call
that?
you. We'll give you a call when we are good and ready. And then nobody hired me.
Yes.
And then I needed to find employment for myself. The nonprofit was already existing, but then I was like, okay, let's turn it into a business while we get the baby to grow. This was 2020. January, we officially went into business. And then in March, the country was sit down.
Lockdown.
And then it was like, okay. And that's when I realized, as an entrepreneur, you got to figure things out.
Yes.
That's a thing, yeah.
Yes. Yes.
You are here now. Make a plan. And then the bug bit, and it's been biting since. Even on the hard days, listen, I fixed up my CV and sent it out with a prayer that nobody sees it. Because you have to say to the husband, I've sent out my CV, man. I'm doing my best.
Yes.
And then you're like, please don't open it, please don't see it, please don't. While you pray for the business to go well. You know, so, but the bug has settled in now. Like, maybe I am the bug now. I'm the one who's passing it on to anybody who will ask.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about your business. What is it called and what do you do?
We are called Afri CanCode. By the way, we have rebranded. We were RoboSteam trained first for a couple of years. November last year, we went through a complete company overhaul. And we are now Afri CanCode.
Nice, Afri CanCode.
Yes. So not African code, Afri CanCode, emphasizing that Africans can code.
Yes.
We play in the social enterprise space, working with partners who allow us to impact the schools that they work with, that they sponsor, or partners that maybe would like to just have a hand in making this country a better place within the education system. And we've got a database of schools that need help. And so we then go out to the school and do best.
Absolutely. And where do you see the greatest need in these schools that you work with and come into contact with?
So in your rural schools, more than your township schools, teacher development.
Teacher development,
Teacher development.
Okay.
I always like to say, my son is 7, he's in grade 2.
Yes.
And when he comes home, mind you, I've studied. I went to school. I graduated twice. But when he says, my teacher says, nothing I say matters.
Yes.
Nothing.
Because that's superior now.
That is superior. And when our teachers are not well developed, when our teachers are not confident, that guy will still come home and say, teacher says, but what information is he bringing home? You know, we've done the research to see where are the gaps. And there have been people who have put teachers into exam rooms to write the same exams that their learners are writing. And our teachers are not doing as well.
Wow,
as they need to
that's
be.
so hectic.
That's an
Articles have been
indictment.
written, exactly.
Yeah.
And so teacher development is a major, major point. Happy teacher, kids learn.
Yes.
Teacher with a great attitude towards education, kids learn.
Yes.
Teacher who says maths is hard and then stands up to teach maths, we can all know where that child is going to end up.
Yes.
By saying maths is hard.
100%.
So for me, as much as we've got challenges, we've got overcrowded classrooms, we've got infrastructure issues, we've got all sorts of fancy things that we can try and fix, that we can fix with money. But if our teachers are not developed and don't have a good attitude, and that's how we ended up rather not teaching the kids and saying, can we rather develop the teachers?
Yes.
Because you teach one teacher, you've gotten 40 to 50 kids learning.
Yes.
And I guess it's actually quite an important space. I was seeing it was the World Economic Forum. They released a statement a few weeks back, and part of what they communicated was that 40% of the current workforce globally will not have work in 5 years' time. So that's with the change of course, AI and the development of technology. So they're saying currently 40% of the global workforce will not have any work in 5 years' time. And they are putting an emphasis on governments to find ways to retrain and redirect the workforce to things that will be of use and of service, because there will be other opportunities available, but just not the current ones that they're doing. So when I'm hearing what the space that you're in, it actually speaks to that, and also speaks to getting that within the schooling system. Actually, am I interpreting that correctly?
Very, very correctly. You see, the challenge that we've got is that a lot of us are seeing technology as a luxury, as a nice to have, whereas we should start seeing it as a survival tool.
Sure.
It's no longer the nice to have. And it looks like it's a nice to have because the haves have it.
Yes.
It's a survival tool. At this point, it's not even a if you've got a smartphone, it's get a smartphone.
Yes, you need this.
Our jobs are not going to be taken by machines. They are taken by the people who can use the machines.
Yes.
That's literally who. I mean, right now you've got prompt engineers, people who know whose jobs is to write prompts for AI.
What is prompt for those of us who are
So
not as well versed?
when you're using AI, any form of AI, I don't want to mention a specific one, artificial intelligence rather, you teach it to think how you are thinking.
Yes.
And how you teach it is by prompting it. So you give it information and you say, give me that information back in a particular form. So that is prompting the AI. So a prompt engineer would be somebody who says, I'll give you an example. We're setting up a podcast. We're going to be interviewing Tshego Dludla. This is what she does, and we give it all the information. Please act as the interviewer and write up 10 questions that we can ask her that will enhance her brand, that will also show the good of what she's doing. AI, done. But somebody sits there and puts in that prompt.
Okay.
And people are actually getting paid to be a prompt engineer.
Okay.
So to be worried that AI is going to take our jobs, that robots or robotics is going to take our jobs, is a bit of it's a late worry. It's the people that can run these things. It's the guy who can use the drone that's taking your job. It's not the drone.
It's not the drone itself.
You understand? So for us to upskill ourselves, number one and most important, upskill ourselves. And the reason we're saying so many people, 40% are going to be out of jobs, is because so many of us don't want to upskill ourselves. We still see it as a luxury. It's not a luxury. It's a survival tool. Same way it is in the classroom. I mean, I did a workshop recently for a company that was saying, how do we use AI to boost sales? How do we use AI to just boost everything that we're doing in the company? And the first thing I saw when I walked in was people who were not interested.
Really?
They were like, but I've been doing this thing for like the past 30 years. How is this person
Why change?
who is in electronics going to come and teach me my job?
Dude,
By the
that's
time
so-
we left, they were like, how do I do this thing again? You said Canva, CA? Because they were like, I could do my job in 30 minutes instead of the
Yes.
3 hours I've been spending.
Yes.
It's a survival tool. It's not a luxury.
And I guess that's how, you get these type of global companies that end up going through their database and saying, actually, we don't need 1,000 people here. We need 200 because, and almost it's like those 200 that are able to figure out, okay, I do this like this, I do this like this. It saves me time, but I can be more productive. It's almost like that, eh?
It is exactly like that.
Okay.
More productivity is what we want. And I think as business people, somebody once said to me, your first and most important employee is your AI.
Yes.
And then you can start hiring. Because if there's things that you can get your AI to do, I mean, look at your balance, your expenses for the month. You cut out at least 2 or 3 employees there. But now, as we get busy, I mean, as a business owner, there's many things you can do. If I can say I've got one person who's dealing with that AI stuff, they're covering the marketing side, they're covering PR, they're covering, that's one person.
Yes.
And then for you as well, I want to understand, what is robotics? Is that like being able to use drones?
No,
Okay.
not just.
Okay.
Robotics is the study of robots. Let me put it this way. So do you know what coding is?
Yes.
Maybe let's start there.
Maybe explain it for
Yes,
those
that's
who
what
may
I'd
not
like
know.
to say. So
yeah.
coding is speaking to a computer in the language that a computer understands.
Okay.
Simple. Or a robot or a electronic device in the language that it understands. And so there's many different languages. What we say in our classes is all thumbs are fingers, but not all fingers are thumbs. Make sense?
Yes.
In other words, all robots need code, but not all coding needs a robot. And that's where you get to be able to separate and differentiate it. So a robot is that thing that we're going to take code, put it into, and it will perform a particular task.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Wow.
If I was to simplify it in the most
Yes.
basic without getting all jargonish,
Yes.
a robot is the thing that we take code, put it in there, and it performs a task.
Are you finding the students open and responsive to this area of learning?
Very quickly. Students love it. Learners, unlike adults, aren't afraid to touch.
Yes.
Well, depending on where you find them. When they're more rural, they're a bit more apprehensive, but
Yes.
once they get into it, they're not
Yes.
afraid to break. Maybe let me say it that way. They're not afraid to break it, and therefore they're not afraid to touch it, as opposed to teachers or adults who will be on some, if I break it, then what?
Yes.
Because they know maybe the cost of it or whatever the case. Kids don't care. And remember, when we're teaching coding and robotics, they think they're playing. They don't see themselves as learning. They don't see themselves as computational thinking and all those fancy things. They're playing. I made a robot that can kick a ball from one point to another. Yay. They don't see that they've learned sequencing, pattern recognition, algorithms.
Yes.
All of those fancy terms.
Yes.
But if you say to them, now create a robot that will do 1, 2, 3 and solve a particular problem, crisis that we've got in our country, they can do it without thinking because they know how to think in that way.
Absolutely.
And I find that, that's, it's one of the things that I've struggled a lot with, let's put it, the education system. I mean, yes, all of us went through it and studied. I studied actuarial science, so it's numbers. It comes from my father. He's a mathematics high school teacher. And what I find in the educational space is that it's a lot of course, theory and then reproduce and things like that. But when it's presented in the way that you're discussing, where you are playing, or where you are basically involved in different scenarios, scenario building, you are actually learning because you are immersed, and it actually stays with you. That's what I find. I mean, do you find that as well as you engage it in that's how it moves?
So let me put it this way. So before we teach the coding and the robotics, we specialize more in unplugged coding, something that a lot of people don't know about, is learning how the coding concepts before you even touch a device, right? We do that in different forms. We've created a board game and things of that nature that we've designed to teach that. And once you learn those concepts, the idea, you're able to replicate it anywhere. But because, like you're saying, they're playing, the neural pathways, I don't want to get too technical now. But the pathways that are created when a child is learning, they don't forget that.
Okay.
So when we are learning how to solve a problem on the game, their brain is saying, this is how I solve a problem, period. So as they grow up, they're going to go into the actuarial space, but they've already learned the skill of solving a problem just from the board game.
Yes.
They're going to get into entrepreneurship, and they know what we call computational thinking. Take a big problem, break it down to its smallest components, solve the smallest problem that you already know how to solve, and then move on to the next one and the next one, and before you know it, you've recognized the pattern recognition. They know how to do that from there. So it doesn't matter what career they choose to go into, they've got the skills from the coding. So coding, I'd like to say this very importantly, is not for us to create software engineers everywhere. That's not what we do. We teach children, humans, how to think in a way that helps them solve problems, so that doesn't matter what career they go into, they're able to be effective, they're able to be impactful, and they're able to solve problems. That's what we do. As entrepreneurs, find a problem, solve it, people will buy it.
Yes.
Start coding, you will see problems everywhere, and now you have the tools to solve the problem. I think we're going to get some great entrepreneurs coming out of this generation just because they know how to code.
And how do parents support this generation? Because it's a whole new world where they are now being exposed to different ways of children learning that they didn't grow up with. What role do parents play in all of this?
First and foremost, our language, how we speak. It is hard, needs to leave our vocabulary.
Definitely.
2, we need to open up and learn. I've had parents speak to me secretly and say, is there something I can check out privately so that when my kid brings home the homework, I can look like I know what I'm doing?
Yes.
And honestly, that's the cheat sheet.
Yeah.
That is the cheat sheet. Go and find out in the background, what are these things we need to be open to learning as well?
Yes.
Because they're going to bring home the homework.
Yes.
Now, if I'm sitting there in Kofi Mvaba teaching a child how to code, and they come home to a parent who's never had access, you understand?
Yeah.
So if we can just start changing our language, start changing our attitude, listen, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Sure, it's just, I'm just amazed. It's a whole new world that is out there that if we are open to embracing it, it actually opens up so much more for the kids as well, even in terms of job opportunities, career, and the way that their lives can unfold, etc. Where do you see the future of coding and robotics within the education space?
Oh, it's an exciting thing for me, but also a very sad thing at the same time.
Okay.
It's exciting because in the country, there's so much potential, so much growth. I mean, the kids we've got are thinkers, proper thinkers. And so the inventions, I mean, the places our kids are going to work, they're going to be developing and producing things that that don't even exist today.
Yes.
Inventions and things are going to be amazing, but it is still so limited to such a small percentage of the country because of resources, because of knowledge, because of teacher development and stuff like that.
Yes.
But don't worry, we're working on it.
Yeah.
We're working on it.
Absolutely.
One school at a time.
Yes, absolutely. Sure, I'm learning so much. Honestly, I'm learning so much, and it's opening my eyes up to just the space that you are in and the opportunities that lie ahead, but also the challenges that exist in the midst of that as
Most
well.
definitely.
So it's very, very interesting. Papa Biz, what have been your key takeaways from this conversation?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've got is, sometimes just going back and looking in terms of, we call it following the breadcrumbs. You go back into childhood and you see, you liked to take things apart and look to understand it and so on. And I mean, where you're at now, we could have lost you. We could have lost you to the arts and being on stage, and that's that's a different journey and so on. But I mean, the things that you involved with now, it shows, just the understanding and the appreciation of having that type of inquisitiveness, that inquisitive mind, and how it's able to go into this space where, it's really needed for our generation and the next generation as well, to be able to find different ways to solve problems.
Yes.
And of course, just to be able to have that impact now where it's required with the teachers. And I'm sure if you thought about it, 5-10 years ago, you wouldn't think that this is space that you could get into, and now you're being remunerated for it. And that's what business is. It's finding those type of opportunities and knocking on doors and having doors being closed. And at some point, the doors open and you're remunerated not only for your passion, but for making an impact.
Absolutely. Gosh, it's so interesting. Tshego, if somebody's watching this and they want to keep in touch with you, maybe they want to explore how their school or their organization can be able to tap into the amazing work that you are doing, how do they go about doing that?
That's awesome, because we can't do what we do without partnerships. We cannot do what we do without our corporates, mines, banks, all of that.
Yes.
Our website is always ready to take inquiries, www.africancode.co.za, or directly email myself, Tshego, T-S-H-E-G-O, don't forget the H, at africancode.co.za, or Jael at africancode.co.za, and all the information that's required, partnership requests, interests in the different projects that we are doing or that are coming up, that we will put up on our social media as well, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. It's all out there.
Great. Thank you so much, Tshego. That brings us to the end of yet another episode. I have taken away incredible nuggets. I think the biggest thing for me is also just the emphasis of us opening up our minds to be open to how the world is changing and how we should embrace that change and how we should be encouraging our future generations to be able to embrace that change as well. I think another thing that really stood out for me is how just the process of looking at coding can actually change the way that you just think and your own programming in different aspects of life. And even in terms of how you approach your business and problem solving. So that was a big aha moment for me. Thank you so much, Tshego. If you've got any questions for Tshego, please leave them in the comment section. Make sure that you're following us at Monetize Your Business on all social media platforms. And you're plugging into our physical workshops as well. We look forward to meeting you on the ground. Until next time, bye-bye for now.
Cheers, guys.